Hello Nippies, welcome back to the channel, and if you're new here, hi, hello, I'm Nips, a freelance artist, and today we are going to be working on another Team Liquid piece. And for those of you that don't know, I do monthly portraits for this series that Team Liquid does, an esports company called Player of the Months, and I do these combinations of the games that these players play and their portraits. And so this month's is Ibiza, and Ibiza is a PUBG player. So they told me which gun that he liked to use, which is an M416, and I am so bad at drawing guns, so this was definitely pretty difficult. And on top of that, I was kind of struggling to get Ibiza's face correct. I think that's the thing that I struggle with the most in portraits. I really want to get their essence, make sure that it's stylized but still looks like them. For this piece specifically, you'll see that I'm using Clip Studio Paint. Most of the time I'm using Photoshop, but I really wanted to try something different with this. Clip Studio Paint is the program that I use specifically for my comic Offsell, which is 18 plus and free to read if you want to check out the links in the description below. The reason that I really like Clip Studio is it has just this specific brush that I really use a lot, this bit husky. You'll see it in the top left. I really love this brush. It always makes me feel much more loose with my pieces, and I decided to go back to this program for that reason, because I feel like I've been doing these portraits for a bit, and sometimes I feel like I'm going a little stale. They start to get samey. I start losing the plot. That usually happens to me on longer series, just because I tend to either go on autopilot or I forget the original style that I started to do the series in. And so I really wanted to just go back to kind of my roots. The first piece that I did, which was the Scream one, I didn't use this program, but the lines were much more sketchy. And so I'm basically going to this program in order to force me to go back to like the sketchy, not super refined, but still very charming type style. And I actually really like how this portrait came out, especially everything that isn't the face. I feel like the lines were very fun, especially in the coloring, which you'll see later. But the one thing that I didn't like is the shading on the face. I actually quite enjoy how the face came out, but the shading, I feel like I didn't color pick properly, and it just didn't look very good. So we'll see that when we get to it later. I feel like the sketching was pretty nice. I felt much more loose, much more comfortable with just the line flow in general. If you saw my latest one before this, which was the Average Jonas one, you'll see how much I struggled in order to kind of adhere not just to an art style, but to the kind of likeness of the player in general. A lot of it was I pretty much lost the plot, and I took it too far on the shading. I got a little too experimental, too ambitious, and not that that's not okay, but when I'm doing a series, at least for me specifically, I like to make sure that they all belong together. And obviously you improve, or at least you'd like to, as time goes on and you still work on a series. So the art style will change naturally because you will get better or you'll be trying new things, but I want to do it in a way that feels natural as opposed to kind of chaotic and all over the place, especially if it's unintentional. I don't mind chaotic and experimental if that is my intention. There are most of the times, like with the Average Jonas and the others, that I intentionally wanted to experiment, but I don't know, it just doesn't, like, the result isn't, it feels chaotic and not intentional, if that makes any sense. Oh my God, that was so complicated, and honestly, there might have been so many contradictions in there, but hopefully you guys understood what I was trying to say. So going back to this kind of sketchy art style really made me feel much more connected to the original plot of this series. And you'll see later that I also try to go back to the more simplified shading too, because if you look at the screen one, you'll see that the shading is very, very minimal, very blocky as well. Just stick to gradients, a couple of dark shadings here and there, some highlights, and that's pretty much it. If you notice, it's generally just kind of flat colored. And so as my portraits have gone on, I've added more and more and more and more shading, which isn't bad, but like I said, I've lost the plot of the original style of the series. So I'm pretty excited with the direction that I took for this. And it isn't exactly the art style that I started with, but I think I'm getting more towards that general vibe. This Ibiza one was published a while ago. I've been holding on to the Speedpaint for a bit. Liquid didn't really inform me that they had already posted it, so I didn't want to post it, before it got released. And so I've been holding on to it for a while. After this, I've already done another portrait that I haven't posted yet, and I'm working on another one on top of that. This one's been backlogged for a bit, so hopefully you guys will enjoy this. I know that these tend to be kind of boring. I know these don't typically get a lot of views on this channel, so I'm sorry if this is not something that you enjoy. I know this is kind of like random content. It's not OC content, and it's not really like fictional media fan art content, but this is something that I do regularly. It's regular contract work. There will be more of these to come. I apologize in advance, but I do have some extra fun content coming soon, so hopefully you guys will look forward to that. Hopefully you guys can see the line art difference in this and some of my other stuff. If you've seen the comic, if you read the comic, this art style and this line art style will look very familiar to you. This brush is one of my favorite brushes of all time. When I do rough sketches, I typically will open this program and use it over Photoshop. If you guys have Clip Studio Paint, the Bit Husky brush I think is a default brush, so you guys should have it if you guys want to try it out. Highly recommend it. And you'll always get this like really nice texture with the lines, and it just kind of allows you to be more sketchy while still looking refined if you really wanted to do that. Definitely 100% one of my favorite brushes, and I've been trying to find a brush to replicate it with on Photoshop so that I don't have to open Clip Studio Paint as much. Though the good thing is that Clip Studio Paint allows you to save in a Photoshop document. You can save it as a PSD. So most of the time I'll just open Photoshop for this brush, do the sketch, do the lines if I really wanted to go that far, or do the rough sketch on Clip Studio because I feel more free in that department. Save it as a Photoshop file and then open it up on Photoshop later so that I can do the colors. Because I will say that the colors on Photoshop to me are pretty much essential. So you'll see here that I'm doing the flat colors at least because that's not really shading or anything. And then I will open it up on Photoshop after this. As far as colors go, like I said, I really love the shading, the loose shading, the shapes. I'm actually quite proud of that. And even the gun design, I'm pretty proud of. The first obstacle was just drawing it and making it look like the gun it's supposed to look. But then the other thing was the skin. So for all of these portraits, I have to include some sort of branding and the specific Liquid Plus logo. This logo has like the rainbow, it has like a rainbow motif, and it has the typical white Team Liquid branding. And so the rainbow kind of aesthetic is super fun for me, but sometimes it clashes with a lot of the typical Team Liquid merch, which is the black, white, navy blue, and gold. And so they asked me to do a skin for the gun. And you'll see here that originally I was going with kind of like the blue, black, and gold and throw in some white kind of gun. And then I was thinking like, where am I gonna put the logo? And then I was like, wait, maybe the gun's skin can be based off the Liquid Plus logo. And I was kind of hesitant at first to make it very, you know, like rainbowy and stuff, but I love colorful things. And so I decided to just try it anyway and hope that Liquid would like it and Ibiza as well, because he has to like it too. Of course, as the subject of the drawing, I really like how the gun came out. I'm not quite sure how everyone else really reacted to it. They told me they liked it, so I'm gonna take their word for it, but you guys will see later in the speed paint, it'll come up. Right now, you'll see me putting the colors already, the shading and everything were in Photoshop. And I will say, I am very proud of the shapes in this drawing. I did such a great job. I'm proud of it. And the shading is not super like overly complicated, and the light sources just look really fun and nice. But like I said, you'll start to see me struggling with the shading on the face. Everything just looks so nice and kind of simplified. And when it got to the face, I really didn't know how to get that same vibe. In the Scream one, it barely has any shading, even in the light version, because I did different versions. I did a night one with the light source coming from his hand, and then I did one where the light source is just like a general one. But yeah, and this one I was just really struggling to find not only the right shapes but the right colors. You'll see here where I changed the theme of the gun into the more rainbow Liquid Plus one, and I just love it. It looks so cool. I put the logo on the back part of the gun, which gun aficionados are going to hate me for this, but I do not know the parts of this gun. So yeah, so I put it on the back part, and then I made the rainbow part in the front. I gave him the signature on the side as well to kind of just put his branding somewhere and put his name. And then we start adding the final kind of gradient details, the lighting, the highlights, and everything. You'll see the piece really just start coming together. And if you compare this to some of my more recent ones, you will notice that there are less details as far as shading goes. But for some reason, I just really like this one more. I feel like the shapes are more clear, the direction of the light, everything is just more cohesive. And it really sucks that the face was the one thing that for me just really like, I just could not find the right colors and the right shapes for it. And I've been wanting to low-key go back and fix it, but since they already published it, maybe I'll fix it a bit for when I post it on Twitter. So if you're seeing this and the link is in the description for the finished product, as I usually do, and it's fixed, you'll know that I went through with it. So yeah. Hopefully you guys liked this video. I will be doing monthly portraits of these until next year, so we will get some regular speed paint. So if you enjoyed it, let me know what you guys thought in the description down below. If there's anything you want to see, also comment, like the video if you liked it, subscribe, join the Nippy family. The more the merrier. I will leave the links in the description of the finished product of this picture and also my 18+ comic. If you guys want to check it out, it's free to read. Also, there is a private Twitter for that comic, which is $5 one time in order to see the concept art, works in progress of the comic as the chapters are getting made, and you'll have access to it until I finish 4 chapters. Lots of work is going into the comic, and if you want to see regular updates, that's where it is. That's pretty much it. So I will see you guys next week for the next video. Bye.